169 were convicted of crimes related directly to that question. President Trump gave them and over 1,000 other rioters a full pardon as one of his first acts of office. Mr. Bovee called these convictions, quote, a grave injustice. Mr. Bovee also ordered the FBI to compile a list of all current and former FBI employees who were assigned, quote, at any time, close quote, to a January 6th investigation, quote, to determine whether any additional personnel actions are necessary. Political retribution at this high level of our government has seldom been seen. This was done and executed by the nominee. There's more. Mr. Bovee personally intervened to strike a corrupt bargain with the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams. You read about it. We've all heard the quotes. He wanted to drop the prosecution of Mayor Adams in exchange for Adams' promise to cooperate with President Trump's immigration policies. In response, several professional prosecutors resigned, including the U.S. Attorney herself. A staunch conservative who clerked for Justice Scalia and was appointed by President Trump. She resigned over Mr. Bovee's suggested deal.
Welcome back to America First, Patriots. I'm your host, and if you're new here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe because we're bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our content fighting for American values and the Constitution. Today, we're reacting to what can only be described as another witch hunt by the radical left Democrats, who are absolutely terrified of President Trump's America First agenda.
The lead prosecutor in the Adams case also resigned. Hagan Scotton, who earned 2 Bronze Stars in Iraq, clerk for Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh, wrote to Mr. Bovee, and I quote, I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool, enough of a coward to file your motion. But it was never going to be me. And according to a whistleblower complaint the committee received yesterday, Mr. Bovee has suggested that the Justice Department might need to say F you to federal courts and ignore federal court orders with which this administration disagrees. Ladies and gentlemen, this gets to the heart of our democracy and the rule of law. As Senator Kennedy of Louisiana has rightly reminded previous nominees, and I quote, don't ever take the position that you're not going to follow an order of the federal court, ever, end of quote. These serious allegations against Mr. Bovee came not from the ACLU, but from a career Justice Department lawyer who was promoted by the Trump administration and is best known for defending the first Trump administration's immigration policies in court. He has now put his reputation on the line to inform this committee on the judiciary of what Mr. Bovee's wrongdoing was. And predictably, he's being attacked by the president's MAGA lapdogs. In addition to Mr. Bovee's unethical conduct, there are serious questions about his temperament. According to public reporting, Mr. Bovee was the subject of an internal investigation over his, quote, abusive, quote, bellicose management style while serving as a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. Just what we need in a federal judge with a lifetime appointment. His fellow prosecutors noted that Mr. Bovee has a quick temper and he belittled his co-workers. In one instance, his poor management contributed to a botched case in which an individual convicted of serious charges related to evading foreign sanction was allowed to go free. My Republican colleagues may brush these examples aside. They may say Democrats have an axe to grind against Mr. Bovee because of the role he's playing in the president's agenda. But the fact remains that complaints about Mr. Bovee's temperament and candor long predate his association with President Trump. I'd also like to address the process by which Mr. Bovee was selected for this New Jersey seat. The White House engaged with Senator Booker and Senator Kim on this vacancy for only 3 months before announcing Mr. Bovee's nomination. And notably, the White House did not indicate it was considering Mr. Bovee until 2 months into that process. Compare that to Biden White House's approach with Republican members of the committee.
What we just witnessed is a perfect example of why the American people voted overwhelmingly to drain the swamp and restore law and order to our great nation. Let me break down what's really happening here. Folks, the Democrats are attacking this nominee because he's doing exactly what President Trump promised he would do: clean house at the corrupt Department of Justice that has been weaponized against conservatives for years. When they talk about pardoning January 6 defendants, they're talking about Americans who have been rotting in prison for exercising their First Amendment rights, while actual criminals walk free in Democrat-run cities. The reality is that January 6 was a setup from day one. These were patriots who went to Washington to peacefully protest what they believed was a stolen election, and they have been persecuted by a two-tier justice system that goes after conservatives while protecting Democrats. President Trump was absolutely right to pardon these political prisoners on his first day back in office. Now they're attacking this nominee for wanting to investigate the FBI agents who were involved in this persecution. That's not political retribution. That's accountability. For 4 years, we watched the deep state try to destroy President Trump with fake Russia collusion hoaxes, impeachment scams, and weaponized prosecutions. The American people deserve to know which government employees participated in these attacks on our democracy. The Democrats are also crying about the situation with Mayor Eric Adams in New York. Here's what they don't want you to know. Adams is being prosecuted by the same corrupt prosecutors who have been going after President Trump. These are the same people who turned our justice system into a political weapon. If there's an opportunity to work with Adams on immigration enforcement to protect American citizens, that's called good governance, not corruption. What we're seeing here is the establishment panicking because they know their days of unaccountable power are over. When career prosecutors resign because they can't continue their political prosecutions, that's not a bug, that's a feature. We need people in the Justice Department who will follow the law, not the Democratic Party's political agenda. They're also attacking this nominee's temperament, claiming he's too tough on his subordinates. Let me tell you something. We need tough leadership at the Department of Justice. We need someone who will hold people accountable and won't tolerate the kind of corruption and political bias that has infected our law enforcement agencies. The American people didn't vote for business as usual. They voted for someone who will shake things up and restore integrity to our institutions. The Democrats talk about respecting federal court orders, but where was that respect when liberal judges were blocking every single Trump policy for 4 years? Where was that respect when activist judges were making law from the bench instead of interpreting the Constitution? The hypocrisy is staggering, but it's exactly what we've come to expect from the radical left. What's most telling about this entire hearing is that the Democrats are more concerned about protecting the deep state than they are about protecting the American people. They're more worried about career bureaucrats than they are about the victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants. They're more concerned about maintaining their political power than they are about restoring faith in our justice system. This nominee represents everything that terrifies the establishment. He's someone who will actually enforce immigration law instead of looking the other way. He's someone who will investigate government corruption instead of covering it up. He's someone who will put America first instead of putting the interests of the global elite ahead of working Americans. The Democrats can attack him all they want, but the American people see right through their games. We know this is about preventing President Trump from implementing the agenda we voted for. We know this is about protecting the same corrupt system that has failed us for decades. Patriots, this is exactly why we need to stay engaged and keep fighting. The establishment will use every trick in the book to obstruct President Trump's agenda, but we can't let them succeed. We need to support nominees who will actually serve the American people instead of the Washington swamp. The fact that they're bringing up complaints from years ago shows how desperate they are. They're reaching back to find anything they can use to attack someone who threatens their power. This is the same playbook they use against Justice Kavanaugh, against President Trump, and against every conservative who dares to challenge their authority. What we need in the Department of Justice is someone who will restore equal justice under law, someone who will prosecute criminals regardless of their political affiliation, someone who will protect the rights of law-abiding Americans while holding lawbreakers accountable. This nominee has the background and the determination to do exactly that. The Democrats' attacks are actually a good sign. It means they're scared. It means they know this nominee will be effective at cleaning up the mess they've made of our justice system. Their hysteria is proof that President Trump chose the right person for the job. As we move forward, we need to remember that draining the swamp was never going to be easy. The establishment will fight back with everything they have because they know their corrupt gravy train is coming to an end. But the American people spoke loud and clear in November, and we're not backing down. This is about more than just one nomination. This is about whether we're going to have a justice system that serves the American people or one that serves the political elite. This is about whether we're going to restore law and order or continue down the path of selective enforcement and political persecution. Patriots, I encourage you to contact your senators and let them know you support this nominee. Let them know you want someone who will actually enforce the law and restore integrity to the Department of Justice. The establishment is counting on us to stay silent, but we're not going to let that happen. Make sure you're subscribed to America First so you don't miss our coverage of this confirmation process. Hit that like button if you agree that it's time to drain the swamp and restore accountability to our government. Share this video with your friends and family who need to hear the truth about what's really happening in Washington. Together, we're going to take our country back from the corrupt establishment that has failed us for far too long. America First, Patriots. We'll see you in the next video.